But yes, essentially, we're doing a lecture on direction of play. That was something that was requested repeatedly. Oh, what happened to that chat? KJS chat, come back. There we go. So yeah, it was requested over and over and over again. I decided to go and get examples for this game, lecture rather. We're going to start off by looking at improper direction of play, let's say. I do want to give fair warning. This lecture may be a little bit less polite than maybe you're used to. Because we are going to be looking over a bunch of different games where some rather questionable moves are going to be played. And we do have to admit that they aren't good ones. So anyone who's like uncomfortable with that, I am sorry. But it is going to be a thing today. Though at the end, we are going to go over a pro game that was played on Taigem and look at some examples of correct direction of play. So we're going to start with 8Q. I've got an 8Q, a 5Q, a 3Q, and a 1Q game to go over, and then a Don as well. Or pro Don as well. So let's start here with direction of play. As you can see, Black decides to make a framework. Alright, cool. Chinese. Sure, why not? White jumps on the inside. Once upon a time, we would say, no, that is not good direction of play. But, you know, things change, and now we actually accept it as completely fine. Used to be we would go and just say approach the corner from the outside because you want to approach the framework and reduce it, but without actually hitting the Q5 point. Times change. This is actually okay now. This, on the other hand, is where things fly directly out the window. Because what he is saying right now, not even like strategically, but what he's saying with his direction of play is he's saying the right side is more important than the top side, which is fundamentally not true. And we know this for a lot of different reasons. One, it helps if we know Joseki, but if we do not know Joseki, that's still okay, because we can see, even if we do not know Joseki, we could come into a position, for example, and say to ourselves, was it a good idea for Black to play on the right-hand side and give White influence on the top side of the board in exchange? And we can do things like we can count how much territory Black obtained from this. How much? About maybe 15 points? Definitely 15 points. That's a point. Yeah, that's definitely 15 points, at least. And we realize that 15 points in exchange, well, and the captured, okay, more than 15 points, in exchange for influence that White can develop from doesn't make any sense. Right? So that's the first fundamental direction of play mistake that was made at this particular level. What we could do instead is keep that from occurring, and White has a weak group now. This is much to our advantage. Now we're getting nice solid points on, well, not solid just yet, but we're developing points on top of the board. We're developing on the bottom of the board. Everything is going well for Black, not so much for White, as we just saw in the other variation over here. Now, continuing on in this game, we also see a direction of play mistake immediately played by White, because we saw the other variation where White can develop the top of the board. And instead what we see is White getting completely bent on fighting the rather odd plays that Black has decided to make on the right side of the board. So they're both kind of missing the overall... yeah, they're crawling to the smallest places they can find. Very true, very true. And because of that, right now is a question of who's going to get Sentei and go back onto proper direction. Sadly, as you can see here, they're going to ignore any semblance of direction. The top is going to remain large for both players, while they just keep picking fights throughout the rest of the game. So that's an example of bad direction. In fact, we could go so far as to say in Black's case, it's kind of, or in White's case rather, it's an example of no direction, because he's just going to attach and just keep fighting. Not a good idea. Well, actually, okay, I picked these games at random last night. Every game I just went into and I saved it. Okay, I wasn't picky. I just wanted your just average game, so I just went in, I just grabbed whatever I saw. Now, what's kind of ironic about this game, though, just that made me almost throw it out, is we're kind of like talking about how White just likes to attach and how that's a bad thing, but no, actually the attachment was the correct response. But that aside, it's even this would have been better, you know? Because we could still keep trying to get that influence, maybe. But, yeah. Suffice it to say, that's an example of bad direction of play. Don't worry, though. I have more. Let's see. Now, sadly, because I have more, it does mean that I'm going to be opening up a lot of different games. I hope you don't mind. Like right now, for example, I'll be opening up the next one that features the 5Q, and we're going to see where they are going wrong. So join me for that one. Alright, KGS chat, let's get refreshed. There we go. Alright. So here we are. So here we are at a 5Q game. And now we get to see how their direction is gone. Right? Openings, dual 3-4s all around. And immediately, we've got slightly questionable direction of play. Because we decided that the 3-4 stone that is not facing our opponents is the one that we're going to actually aid. Which is not the good idea, because if our opponent gets to respond here, and even if we keep getting more territory, right, what are we doing? We're developing a bunch of low stones, which is not how you actually develop any kind of significant amount of territory. This is just a very low and unattractive area. There's nothing that you can do. For example, let's say you get Sente. Let's say you play, I don't know, some Jiseki here, whatever. And you've got Sente and you want to make a large area now because you have Sente, but you can't actually do that because there's too many ways to invade this ugly low position. There's like shoulder hits, there's flat out invasions. There's like a lot of different things you can do. We're ignoring K4 for the moment. Suffice to say, the right-hand side is not really easy to develop. Whereas if we play here, and our opponent doesn't... and our opponent does something else, then we can actually develop. We can keep playing on the right-hand side. It's fairly easy to do. Our opponent can, like, enclose now, for example. Let's go this way. And we could make framework very, very easy. Extensions from iron corner helps the 3-4 stone. Everything works well together. Here, there's no stone that we're going to play that works well with everything that's already on the board. So that's immediately one questionable way that we can see bad direction of play. But don't worry, it gets better. Ignoring bad Jiseki. This was good. This extension at K3, this is good. We know it's good because black wants the enclosure, or has the enclosure and wants an extension for his enclosure. That makes sense. Attaching here, a little bit more unusual. Because now we're saying we just want to develop this area. the bottom of the board is the largest area on the board right now. But our opponent has a stone that we haven't responded to that's threatening to reduce us, so not quite correct. Would you say h3 was better? Oh yeah. Yeah, h3 would be better on the left, just to make certain that we can't get attacked there easily. It'd also be okay on top of the board, to make certain for the exact same reasons. Yeah, that'd be perfectly fine. So right now, black is saying the bottom of the board is the most important board of all the boards, when probably not true, because we can get forcing moves and responding to our opponent, which is also very, very nice. There's a third one here. And this is where it gets really, really large, right? Now black is saying that the left-hand side is the largest area on the board. Would you guys agree with that one, out of curiosity? Do you think the largest part of the board right now is this left-hand side? I think that f15 can be really big for white. True. True. Threatens to attack the corner. c6 would not be the largest. That's still focusing on the left-hand side. q8, whereabouts in the middle would be better. I like what I heard at f15. This is a really good start because you're threatening this, right? But rather than playing on the left-hand side, playing simply in the middle is actually pretty good. The middle of the board is actually very amazing for black right now because we've got the two stones that are weak. We've identified two weak stones. And we've identified low stones for white on the right-hand side. So between this, getting free moves here, and getting potentially free moves here, we can actually develop, right? Because we can easily develop stones in the middle of the board, and we've got low stones, go away. And we've got low stones that we can use to further develop our area. So instead of this, he decides to play very, very locally, not trying to take advantage of the two weak stones, and just trying to make some very local shape for his two stones. So that's an example of bad direction, because we could have tried to attack this, for example, and see if there's anything here that we can that we can accomplish. We could try to keep this low, and build up. But none of that has anything to do with threatening to keep c8 low. So not exactly the biggest move on the board. And as we can see here, the result of that, white gets to attack, settling himself. Maybe he was afraid of giving white e8. Well, if he plays here and white plays e8, that's kind of asking black to cap him and further develop the middle of the board, which would be fabulous. This is exactly what we want. We love to see such moves. We will take more and more of these moves as often as we can get them. Because we wouldn't probably play this now. We'd probably cap here. White would probably play away. We'd play here and figure out where we can play. But B did not play away here. He kind of did. He's not going into the middle, he's actually going into the side, which is not interesting. As white immediately showed him. Well, could have immediately showed him. He could have said, you know what, you're in trouble here still. You need to do something about this group that's not completely alive yet. And that would have been fair enough, because we're not going to turn around and be like, no, I'm going to play here. It's like, what? You sure about that? Because you're not alive at the moment. So we see that. We see white connecting on up. So we're losing our ability to make something happen in the middle of the board, because white's getting stronger. And as we can see here, his interest lies totally on top of the board, trying to attack some stones. Whoops. That's not... He did not go back to the beginning of the game and throw all the stones off the board. He didn't do that. He did this, he did that, he did this, that. There we go. Anger issues. Yeah. Though, I did see that in the movie. Which one was it? Yeah, that Korean Go movie that came out. I forget the name of it. Let's look it up later. Yeah, it's completely Go related. It's about a bunch of Go players. Divine Move, there we go. That's what it was. Yeah, it was a Go movie. It's very, very violent, though. I don't recommend, like, watching it if you're, like, 4 years old. That would be bad. It's, like, really violent and bloody. Because it kind of deals with, like, gambling Go and all that kind of stuff. Anyway. Without getting sidetracked. Here we can see black going after the 3 stones on top of the board. Here's a question for you. Why is this wrong direction? Why is this wrong direction to play? What weak group? D7 is still in a lot of trouble. Yes, it is in a ton of trouble. Even if, let's say we surround this. Even if we lose these 5 stones, being able to surround that left-hand group that we're not really certain how it's going to live is not too bad. I mean, we can always sacrifice this and still come out okay. Right? And be thrilled to death, because this is a completely different board than we saw... Crap. Darn it. No. Almost. Ta-ha! It's a completely different board than we see here, where black is rapidly putting white's groups in danger and developing the board at a very, very fast pace. Right? So the fact that we can completely surround that and not lose too much on the top, that's amazing for white right now. In fact, we don't even care if this lives. This can go back and live. Go back and live. Live, 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 la la la, pass, 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 la 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 la. There we go, we lived. Because, yeah, exactly, the influence. We can keep this low, we can threaten invasions here. That's worth 5 stones on top of the board. This is a completely fundamentally different game, based on whoever understands the proper direction of play. If you get bogged down and like start killing a couple of stones that aren't really worth very much, just because you can, then you're giving up a lot elsewhere. Usually, unless they're cutting stones. If they're cutting stones, then okay. I mean, there's obviously, you know, examples on when that's not going to be true. And as we can see here, yeah, white immediately goes for it, goes for the surround. Not the best of responses ever. Does manage to live, which is good. Gives up a couple of stones over himself, which is not so great. But we can forgive them because they're 5Q. But yeah, eventually does go back and try to finish that center off. So despite losing a couple of stones, might still be okay because he has potential still. There's still potential on the board. Shouldn't have had to get rid of those other 3 stones, but, you know, no reason to forgive them. That's mean. Rubicon is a very, very harsh teacher. Beware any who takes lessons with him. It's like, why did you lose that game? My power went out. I don't care! I'm sorry. Alright. So, let's go back. Trying to corner the market. Exactly. Alright, so let's see. We have 2 more games before we look at a pro game. I want to look at a 3Q real quickly and a 1Q game real quickly. And then we're going to look at a pro game and see what proper direction of play looks like. Dooba. That is not my actual KGS window, that's OBS. Enclave 3Q. That was my favorite game, by the way. Alright, refresh, KGS chat, refresh, KGS board. And refresh name. No, that's not name. This name and this name. Sweet. Now we have 3 Qs. So 3 Qs should be a little bit harder to find in proper direction of play, right? I mean, in this chat right now, we only have, let's see, we've got Dasan, he's stronger than 3Q. Aaron, Ambiguous, Austin, we got 4 people who are stronger than 3Q. Flo. Why? What is this? Is it just me, or does KGS never, like, sort by rank ever anymore? Alright, about half the people watching are under 3Q. So it should be kind of difficult to find improper direction of play, right? But right off the bat we can find one, because this is a little bit questionable, but we'll ignore it for the moment. We see the approach onto the 3-4 because Kobayashi. You've got like a Kobayashi variation going on here, right? Yeah, it's an option, but it used to stay there. Like, if you actually sorted by rank, then anytime you logged on to KGS, it would sort by rank, but it hasn't been doing that lately. Yeah, bug. So you have a bit of a variation here of the Kobayashi. So we approach far away. He's good with Fuseki. His opponent pincered, which technically you could do, but if we know Joseki, then we know this is not a pincer that you can play here. Doesn't really work out well, but that's fine. Unfortunately, he's also saying that the right-hand side is the most important side right now, despite the fact he is actively making a framework down there, which is a little weird. I would have expected maybe something like this to go for 5th line territory. That seems like it would have been a much better idea for what he had in mind. He instead decides to say, you know what, I'm going to pincer you. Question here, without knowing what white's going to play next, what do you think white should consider? Okay, you already know what white play next. I accidentally clicked ahead. But if you did not know what white's going to play next, what would you think that would be a good idea for white to continue this game with? How should he be playing? Where are the large moves for him? What should he be thinking about? Do any of you know? Like R3 or Q4. Okay, alright, I agree with one of those moves. Nope, you don't need any reading for this. It pinches, the corner is open, yeah. Left side of the board, I'm going to disagree with there, Tycho. E3, I'm disagreeing with as well. But all I would expect here, for example, is influence. Why do you want to get influence? Basic reason. Fundamentally from, let's say, here. Let's say we were going to play this and white pincers us. We know that because of our corner, we're strong here. We can get influence and counterattack. We can do 2 things at once, and this is usually a good thing to do. It's also the reason why you almost never actually see someone pincer this, because they don't want to get into that situation. They tend to back off. So here, it follows that there are a lot of ways that we could, for example, use that same idea. We could just get a bunch of influence here and then go back and pincer. Because now we're using all of our stones to our advantage. We're keeping black low. We're getting some influence so we can attack and build at the same time. This is a pretty good direction to go for. Let's see what white actually says in the game. White says, I care about the bottom right now. And that's pretty much the extent of what white's thinking. Not even how to live. I mean, this is like an in-between move. Can't even make a base. This is just, I really like to live here. When there's really no reason to. We could give that up and be happy. We can see here there's nothing wrong with this variation. Instead, we're just going to try to wreck everything because we can. And unfortunately, whenever we're trying to wreck everything simply because we can, we are not really playing... no, that's harsh. Don't say that out loud. We're not really... We're not playing the best moves that we can. I was going to say we're not really playing Go, but we're not really playing the moves that we could be playing. The moves that are worth the most currently on the board. This is just jealous. This is just playing jealousy. It's like, I see you have something, I want to take it away from you. And that's not really Go. So we see this. That should be a cut. And now we're in a fight that we don't even care about. At this point, I would say, let's bet on black. Why? Because this can be completely surrounded, and this can be surrounded as well. So the amount of influence that we're going to get from this, from white simply being jealous, is going to be amazing. And we can profit from this immediately. If we enclose this, we profit on the left-hand side. Do we have the corner over there? Yes, we're making profit. If we surround this, can we do anything? Yeah, we can do that too, because if this lives, we can just use it to approach, and we're going to make profit there as well. So this is what Jealousy Go gets you. And we kind of actually see it happen here. Let's see, we're already at 8:30. I want to spend the majority of the time on the right way. Let me open this 1Q game up real quick. Was it really worth going over? Was it really worth going over? No, that's just Jealousy Go. Screw it, forget that one. Yeah, I'm going to go for the pro game. The 1Q game was also just kind of Jealousy Go. So let's open up a pro game and see some proper direction of play and how it differs from what we've seen thus far. Have to keep changing files. Alright, upload SGF to Enclave. What did I name you? I named you Tip Top. Wow, did I do that? I did. Okay, we did do that. And then refresh board name, KGS chat, KGS board. Okay. So here we go with this. With this game, we have Pro vs. Pro from Tygem. DDCG, if anyone has watched, pay attention, drooled over my lectures, they know I've gone over DDCG's games before. Baidu, we don't know, I don't know who he is anyway, other people probably do. But he's a verified pro. He's got, like, the mark next to his name. He, like, he's proved to Tygem who he is. He's an actual pro player, so he's marked as such on Tygem. So, in this game, immediately we see an idea here. Direction, we're going to build up the left-hand side. Alright, that's pretty straightforward. Look at that, we're building up the left-hand side. Sweet. Black decides white comes in. Why? Because we have more than enough room to live here. For example, regardless of what black plays, please never play this in your actual game. We can get a comfortable base here. So this stands to reason that it's fine. It's the difference between playing this, for example, and playing the Chinese. We can't get that nice comfortable base. We're a little bit uncomfortable instead, so we want to avoid it. But here we have a nice comfortable base, so black decides to pincer. Cool. And here's where direction starts coming into play really, really quickly. Because white attaches for shape and threatens to surround. Black says, I'm going to develop the right-hand side. Okay, that's fine. White follows up. Black completes his Joseki. Black follows up. White gets Sente to kill off his stone. So far, nowhere in this have we been jealous so far. That's the first important thing. We also haven't gotten bogged down with complicated fighting. Black decided, you know what? I don't want to attach, and okay, that get 2 stones in a row, that'd be great. I don't want to attach and get bogged down in this fighting. I'm just going to play Joseki. I'm just going to play away rather, and then fix my shape later. So okay, that's already one big change from everything else. He doesn't mind that his corner's gone, because he's getting Sente from it. Now, white continues. Now, as we can see here, we have 2 choices of white. We know what he does. He could have done something different. He could have played the extension. That is a large move, but then problem is it affords black to take his own extension. It affords black to fix his own position. We lose a little bit of Aji that way. So we're going to probe here, see what we can do. Black says, you're welcome to take my 2 stones. I don't care. I just want to connect. White says, fine, I'll do that later. Let's block your extension. So now's the time to be jealous. Is it time to go insane? Time to go crazy? Time to fight everything? Suppose you could. But he says no. There's a lot of Aji there. Why would I be crazy and start creating strange groups? I mean, I can get territory here. I can connect here still. Even if you try to take that away from me. I mean, heck, I could even take another extension and still be relatively happy with myself, because that's a pretty small concession to give. So, no reason to be crazy yet. White decides to be crazy because, well, he's DDCG, let's face it. It's not completely passive. Aji, 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 and then develop the top. Why? Because we have all this to develop the top with. Why not? We have a bunch of influence. We have influence. We're going to use the influence. We could have played otherwise. We could have played for that stone. We could have played super small, but then we don't get to use our influence. So why would we do that? Right? Makes perfect sense. All we're doing right now is just using what we already have developed. Result of which, black gets to attack. We decide which stone is more important. Is the 1 stone more important, or are the 2 stones more important? Another very, very important direction of play choice, because the one that we ignore is going to probably get a little bit more injured. If we decide on this one, for example, we can read 1 stone in advance and realize I'm about to be surrounded on top on the left-hand side, and on the bottom side as well. That's not good for us. So that would be a bad direction. So we save ourselves here. Black connects. That's just Joseki, don't worry about it if you don't know why. Essentially, he doesn't do it though, does he? No, he doesn't. Essentially, white can come down here still, but we can still connect on up, so there's no reason to, like, care. And if white drops down when we're already alive, we can still live here, so again, no reason to care. Thus, we know we have Sente. Black caps. We're now going for a fight. A little bit of one anyway. Probably can't live locally, so we're going for surrounds. And these 3 stones, do bear mentioning, are really, really important, because the extra influence is helping us take care of white's influence. We can do things now that we might not have considered before. We can do things like separate this stone. We can do things like threaten to invade because we're strong in the middle as well as he is. There's a lot going on here. Not covering this very, very quickly, or not too in-depth rather, going over it a little bit quickly. If I was to say, black manages to save his stones, white manages to do likewise. And now the question has to be asked, what are we going to do from here? Well, actually no, this is pretty much middle game, isn't it? Yeah, this is pretty much middle game. This is pretty much middle game. I can probably go back and touch up on a few things instead. Now, the difference between the program that we're seeing here and the games that we saw earlier on, some of it does have to do with Aji and understanding when a position is good to be left alone. For example, here, for example, black knowing that we can leave the upper left-hand corner because it takes... Come on. There we go. Because it takes all of these stones in order to kill off our corner. We don't really feel compelled that it's an absolute must, because getting Sente this many times should probably help us profit somewhere. The difference between this and an amateur game, for example, is we would probably get about right here, and then the amateur would change their mind, and things would go very, very badly from here on out. Because now we'd be trying to do things like, I don't know, go back here and live, which gives even more influence away whether you wish to or not. At that point, we can try to get an even larger area on top of the board because we got so much more influence than we had previously, all in exchange for just kind of like living small here with next to no points. Doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So that's the one example of how that could have gone badly. Same thing here. Same thing here, rather. As whites, we could continue this, but we lose Sente. And when we lose Sente, then we don't get to do cool things like take away black's extension, because black's going to take it for himself. We don't get to do cool things like develop the top of the board and actually use our influence, because we've lost Sente. We're not going to be able to do that. So granted, there is a lot more Aji involved in here, but you can see the decisions that they're making, right? No one throughout here has been jealous of the person's territory. No one's fighting simply because they can invade somewhere. Black developed and has used his stones to further develop what he was interested in. White got influence. White's using his moves to further develop his influence. Everything flows quite naturally together. As opposed to the few games that we've gone over where things kind of don't meet that quite so much. Let's see, does anyone have any questions about any of this so far? I've kind of gone over a lot of stuff in a very short amount of time. What was that saying? Sente is worth 20 points or so? It depends on when. Beginning of the game? Could very well be. The entire top left pretty much confused you. Okay. When you say white got a good result, I'd say that white got an even result. In exchange for one corner, black got two corners of his own. Oh, it feels like local thinking. If we go just locally, if we just look at this locally, then yeah, white got a better result. But this early on in the game, we have to look beyond local thinking and see what the rest of the board is doing. And the rest of the board, black picked up two solid corners. And maybe a weak group for white. Yes. So when C went to C8 and went, or 7 went to attach. C7, C7, C7. C7's a bit more of a commitment, and typically played with low stones rather than high. It's fine to be played here too. I don't really want to really show this Joseki very much. It happened in a recent game? Did you play it or did your opponent play it? Oh, you were white. If you were white, I would probably just prefer to pick this. It's nice and simple. If you have a lot of time on your hands, shoot, where'd it go? No. There we go. Then there's a lot of ways to mess this up. One quick way to mess this up is playing here, because there's like no really good results out of this. I mean, all you're doing now is just trying to kill off a couple of stones, which is not recommended. Right. In exchange for those stones, you're giving away territory. Yeah, simple is usually nice. Simple is usually very nice. If we play here, we're threatening to go underneath. Usually black's not going to allow that. We're not going to Atari here because that's a cut. We're not going to Atari here because that's an Atari. That's not an Atari, stupid. We're not going to bamboo this because that's obviously, you know, a massive failure. So the only move that we can really play here is the connection, which is still useful because it means we have moves like this that are still going to threaten to cut through, which is kind of important to take note of. Let's see, is there any other variations where we can play this? I don't think there's any variations where we can play this, are there? Not really. This is a wraparound. Yeah. Most we can do is just kill off our 3 stones, but there's no reason to kill off the 3 stones, because usually this Joseki is played for one reason, and that is going to be to attack that marked stone. Because, I mean, even in a variation like this, for example, it's very hard to be killed because we can go under the stone. If that stone was low, we go over the stone. Here we can threaten to get a base and still live while we've cut black into multiple weak groups. This used to be a really popular variation to the mini Chinese. Shortly before the micro Chinese became really popular, this is like completely going off the main topic. But one of the ways to really take advantage of this is the fact that we were going to play the attachment here. And we're going to get Sente and play the attachment here. So we're gonna get influence, treat it lightly, and then approach directly to put maximum pressure on C11. And because this variation sends us really, really close to C11, there's not a lot black can do about that, and this becomes like a gigantic fight. It's a lot harder to do that with the micro. Simply because, one, there's no good variation here. We can't get a base. So that's one reason. Another reason is even if you get closer, black's still going to be able to get a little bit of a thing here. So we usually don't approach it in this fashion. We could, though. We could theoretically. I suppose since this is farther away, maybe we could. We can just get a base here if we needed to. Split normally, and then just use this to get a base to live on the left-hand side, but I don't know. I haven't studied the variation enough in the micro-Chinese format to say one way or the other. Long story short. Were there any other questions? But yeah, back to the original question. Long story short, yeah. Locally, this is better for white. Yay, you caught the end of a bat demo. And the bat stream has been going on for 5 hours and 50 minutes now. You no doubt lose. Yeah, black's really good. I think this is a completely equal position. Me and they both sacrifice something to gain something. Well, the actual game is here, so you know who wins. But yeah, pretty straightforward. I think what we're gonna do next time, next lecture, we're going to use a continuation of this, and what we're gonna do is something that I haven't done in a very, very long time. We're going to do a kind of a take-turn style, where we're going to look at the first 50-odd moves of one of you guys who are going to watch, I suppose. And we're going to go over just direction of play and see if anyone's getting too jealous of what people are doing. We're going to might get bogged down in some Joseki questions too. That's probably inevitable. But next lecture, that's what we're going to do. We're going to devote the hour to just going over your moves and examining direction of play from your own decisions. But now that you have a bit more of an idea of what Jealous Go looks like, I don't think anybody in that lecture is going to play Jealous Go, right? No, definitely not. Definitely not. And if you do, we will all point it out, so don't worry. Out of curiosity, who won this? White. White always wins this. White wins most of his games. He's a really, really strong professional player. White is a really good fighter. He could actually play complete improper direction of play throughout most of the opening and still probably win. So I'd be like, dude, he's just going to fight and kill something. That's what he's going to do. But alright, I'm tired. I've been streaming for 6 hours now. I'm doing this every Wednesday. So I will see you guys next time. Take care, everyone.